I am 32 years old now, and when I look back at my life, I realize that 10 years have passed like an endless nightmare. I was once a junior at university majoring in electrical engineering with a bright future ahead of me. I had a girlfriend named Harper, and I was planning to propose to her. Everything collapsed one night in November 2014 when my sister Stephanie accused me of assaulting her and threatening to kill her. I took a 5-year probation deal to avoid 15 years in prison, even though I was completely innocent. I lost everything because I trusted my family, but 10 years later the truth began to surface from the person I least expected. Before I tell you how my own sister destroyed my life and how the truth finally came out, I want to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you have ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is going to take you through hell and back and you will not believe how it ends. My life before everything fell apart was actually pretty good. I was a junior at the University of Colorado Boulder studying electrical engineering. My GPA was 3.7, and I had a research scholarship from a renewable energy company. I was passionate about sustainable technology and genuinely believed I was building something meaningful. Harper and I had been dating for 3 years. We met during freshman orientation, bonded over a mutual love of hiking and terrible horror movies, and just clicked. I had already bought the ring. It was a simple white gold band with a small diamond, nothing extravagant, but it was all I could afford on a student budget. I planned to propose on Christmas Eve at her parents' house in Fort Collins. My family situation was complicated. My parents, Patricia and Raymond, divorced when I was 12. It was not a friendly split. There was a lot of bitterness, accusations about money, about who was the better parent. My mother, Patricia, got primary custody of me, and my older sister, Stephanie, chose to live with our father, Raymond. Stephanie was 3 years older than me, and we used to be close when we were kids. We would build forts in the living room, play video games until 2 in the morning during summer break, and she always defended me when I got picked on at school. But after the divorce, something changed in her. She became distant, colder. When we did see each other, usually during holidays, she would make passive-aggressive comments, twist my words, and then act like I was the one being unreasonable. I later learned this behavior had a name: gaslighting. Stephanie had become very skilled at it. She would say something hurtful, and when I reacted, she would claim I was overreacting or being too sensitive. She would tell our father things I supposedly said, things I never actually said, and Raymond would believe her without question. Stephanie was always the golden child in his eyes. She was beautiful, charming, and knew exactly how to manipulate people to get what she wanted. I recognized these patterns, but I kept trying to maintain a relationship with her because she was my sister. I believe family was supposed to stick together no matter what. The night that changed everything was November 17th, 2014. It was a Tuesday. I remember because I had a thermodynamics exam the next morning, and I was in my apartment studying when my phone rang at 10 p.m. It was Stephanie. She was crying, almost hysterical. She said she was at our father's house in Denver. Raymond was away on a business trip and she was alone. She said she needed me to come right away because she was scared. She would not tell me what was wrong over the phone, just kept saying, "Please, Booth, I need you." I grabbed my keys and drove from Boulder to Denver. It took me 45 minutes. The whole drive, my mind was racing with worst-case scenarios. Had someone broken in? Was she hurt? When I arrived at the house, Stephanie opened the door. Her face was not injured. There were no visible bruises, no signs of trauma. She looked upset, but physically fine. She let me in and told me she had gotten into a fight with her boyfriend, a guy named Kyle. She said he had left and she just needed someone to talk to. I stayed with her for about 2 hours. We sat in the living room. She talked, I listened. She told me Kyle was controlling, that he got angry over small things, that she was thinking about breaking up with him. I tried to be supportive. I made her tea, let her vent, and around midnight I told her I had to go because of my exam. She hugged me and thanked me for coming. I drove home thinking I had done the right thing being there for my sister when she needed me. 2 days later at 7:30 in the morning, there was a loud knock on my apartment door. I opened it to find 2 police officers standing there. They asked if I was Booth, and when I said yes, they told me I was under arrest for domestic violence and criminal threatening. I was so confused I actually laughed at first. I thought it was some kind of mistake, but then they read me my rights, put handcuffs on me, and took me to the station. That is when I learned that Stephanie had filed a police report claiming that on the night of November 17th, I had assaulted her. She said I had punched her in the face, choked her, and threatened to kill her if she told anyone. I could not breathe. My entire body went cold. I kept saying, "This is not true. This did not happen. She is lying." But the officers just processed me like I was any other criminal. They took my fingerprints, my mugshot, and put me in a holding cell. I called my mother, Patricia, and she bailed me out that afternoon. She looked at me with this awful mixture of confusion and fear, like she did not know if she should believe me or not. That look broke something inside me. My father, Raymond, believed Stephanie immediately. When I tried to call him, he refused to speak to me. He sent me a text message that said, "You always had anger issues." I am not surprised it came to this. I had never had anger issues. I was the kid who avoided fights, who walked away from confrontations. But Raymond wanted to believe I was the problem because it fit his narrative. Harper, my girlfriend, initially stood by me. She came to my apartment, held me while I cried, and told me we would get through this together. But then Stephanie reached out to her. Stephanie called Harper and told her a detailed story about how I had been violent, how she had been covering for me for years, how she was finally brave enough to come forward. Harper started to doubt me. I could see it in her eyes. 2 weeks later, she said she needed space. A month after that, she broke up with me through a text message. I hired a public defender named Mr. Garrison because I could not afford a private attorney. Mr. Garrison was a tired-looking man in his 50s who had probably seen too many cases just like mine. During our first meeting, he laid it out plainly. This is a he said, she said situation, Booth, and in these cases the system tends to side with the accuser, especially when the accuser is a woman. I am not saying that is right or wrong, I am just telling you how it is. Stephanie had evidence. She had photographs of bruises on her neck and arms. The photos were taken the day after the alleged assault, and they looked bad. Dark purple marks, clear handprints on her upper arm. I knew I had not caused those bruises, which meant either she had done them to herself or her boyfriend Kyle had done them. But there was no way to prove that. She also had text messages. There was one message I had sent her a year earlier during a joking argument about who was the better cook. I had written, "I could kill you for saying that." It was obviously a joke, but taken out of context, it looked sinister. Stephanie had kept that message, and now she was using it against me. She also had a witness. A friend of hers named Jenna gave a statement to the police saying that Stephanie had confided in her months earlier about my supposed violent tendencies. Jenna claimed Stephanie had told her she was afraid of me. It was a complete lie, but Jenna was willing to testify to it. On top of that, my father Raymond wrote a letter to the court. In it, he stated that I had always been a difficult child, that I had trouble controlling my temper, and that he was not surprised by the accusations. Reading that letter felt like being stabbed. My own father was willing to destroy me to protect Stephanie. The prosecutor, a woman named Ms. Lawson, was aggressive. She offered me a plea deal early on. If I pled guilty to third-degree assault and criminal mischief, I would get 5 years of probation instead of going to trial. If I went to trial and lost, I was looking at up to 15 years in prison. Mr. Garrison told me bluntly, "A jury is not going to side with you. You are a young man accused of hurting a woman. You have no witnesses, no alibi, and she has photos and testimony. If you go to trial, you will lose. I spent 2 weeks agonizing over the decision. I called my mother every night and she would cry and say she did not know what to do. I barely slept. I stopped eating. I kept thinking that if I just told the truth, if I just explained what really happened, someone would believe me. But Mr. Garrison kept repeating, the system does not work that way. You need to protect yourself. Finally, on January 12th, 2015, I agreed to take the deal. I signed the papers with a shaking hand, and I felt like I was signing away my soul. The court date was on a cold morning in February. I stood in front of the judge, a stern older man who barely looked at me. He asked me if I understood the charges, and I said yes. He asked me how I pleaded, and I had to force the word out, guilty. It felt like my throat was being crushed. The judge sentenced me to 5 years of probation anger management classes and no contact with Stephanie. I walked out of that courtroom knowing my life was over. The consequences came fast. The university expelled me for violating their code of conduct. I lost my scholarship. Harper had already left me, but now friends started distancing themselves too. Nobody wanted to be associated with someone convicted of domestic violence. I moved back in with my mother Patricia in Greeley, a small town about an hour from Denver. I applied to dozens of jobs, but every background check came back with my conviction, and I would get a rejection email within days. The 5 years of probation were the worst years of my life. I had to meet with my probation officer, a man named Officer Brennan, twice a month. He was not cruel, but he was indifferent. To him, I was just another case file. I was not allowed to leave Colorado. I was not allowed to contact Stephanie. I had to attend anger management classes every week, sitting in a circle with men who actually did have anger problems, listening to them talk about their issues while I sat there knowing I did not belong. I finally got a job at a small auto repair shop called Eddie's Auto Repair. The owner, Eddie, was an older guy with grease-stained hands and a kind face. He was the only person willing to hire me. He said, "Everyone deserves a second chance, kid." I worked there fixing cars, changing oil, doing basic mechanical work. It was honest work, but it was not the career I had dreamed of. I was supposed to be an engineer designing solar panels and wind turbines. Instead, I was spending my days underneath cars, covered in grease, trying not to think about everything I had lost. My mother Patricia would ask me how I was doing, but she never asked me directly if I had done it. I think she was afraid of the answer. We would have dinner together once a week, and we would talk about safe topics, like the weather, her job at the library, anything except the elephant in the room. I lived in a constant state of shame and anger. I was angry at Stephanie, angry at my father, angry at the system, but most of all, I was angry at myself for taking that deal. The 5 years finally ended in February 2020. I completed my probation, but the conviction stayed on my record. I tried to rebuild. I moved to Denver, got a job at a small company that installed solar panels. It was not engineering, but it was closer to what I loved. I tried to date, but every time I met someone new, I had to decide when to tell them about my past. Some women ghosted me immediately. Others tried to be understanding, but eventually left. I learned to live with loneliness. In September 2024, I was 32 years old. I had spent the last 4 years trying to build some semblance of a normal life. I had a small apartment in Denver, a decent job, and a few acquaintances, though I would not call them close friends. I had learned not to trust people easily. One Tuesday afternoon, my phone rang. It was a number I did not recognize, but I answered anyway. The voice on the other end said, "Is this Booth?" I said yes. The voice continued, "My name is Derek. I am married to your sister Stephanie. I know you do not know me, but I need to talk to you about something important. I think she lied about what happened 10 years ago." My heart stopped. For a moment, I could not speak. Then I said, "What are you talking about?" Derek said, "Can we meet? I would rather explain this in person. Please, I have evidence." I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop called the Roasting House in downtown Denver the next day. I did not sleep that night. My mind raced with possibilities. Was this a trap? Was Stephanie trying to mess with me again? But something in Derek's voice had sounded genuine, desperate even. The next afternoon, I walked into the coffee shop and saw a man sitting in the corner booth. He was in his mid-30s, average height, with dark hair and tired eyes. He stood up when he saw me and extended his hand. "Booth, thank you for coming." We sat down and Derek started talking. He told me he had married Stephanie in 2018. They had a daughter named Emma, who was now 6 years old. For the first few years, everything seemed fine, but gradually Derek started noticing things. Stephanie would lie about small things, unnecessary things. She would contradict herself and then insist he was remembering wrong. She was controlling about money, about his time, about who he could see. He recognized it as manipulation, but he stayed because of Emma. Recently, Derek discovered that Stephanie was having an affair with a man named Marcus, someone she worked with. When Derek confronted her, Stephanie turned it around. She accused Derek of being jealous, controlling, abusive. She threatened to call the police and say he had hit her. Derek said, "That is when I remembered she had told me about you. She said you were her brother, that you had attacked her years ago, that she barely escaped. She used that story to make me feel like I was lucky she trusted me at all." But Derek started to feel like something was off. He began digging into the story. He found the court records online and read through the case. He noticed inconsistencies between what Stephanie had told him and what was in the official documents. Then a few weeks ago, while cleaning out the garage, he found an old journal of Stephanie's. It was hidden in a box of her things from college. Derek opened it and started reading. One entry dated November 20th, 2014. 3 days after she filed the police report, made him stop cold. Derek pulled out his phone and showed me a photo of the journal page. I read it, and my hands started shaking. It said, "I cannot believe I actually did it. Booth will never forgive me, but I had no choice. Dad said if I did not do something, he would cut me off. Kyle left bruises on me anyway, so why not use them?" I read it 3 times. I felt like I was going to throw up. Derek said, "I am sorry. I know this is a lot, but you deserve to know the truth." I asked him what he wanted to do with this information. He said, "I want to help you clear your name. I am done protecting her. What she did to you is unforgivable." I contacted a lawyer that same week. Her name was Ms. Adriana Torres, and she specialized in wrongful convictions. I showed her the journal entry, explained my case, and she reviewed all the documents. After 2 days, she called me back and said, "We have a strong case to vacate your conviction. This journal is clear evidence of perjury. We can also pursue criminal charges against Stephanie if you want." I thought about it. Part of me wanted revenge. Part of me wanted her to suffer the way I had suffered. But another part of me just wanted to be free. Ms. Torres said, "Let us start with vacating the conviction. Once that is done, you can decide if you want to pursue charges." We arranged a meeting with Stephanie. Ms. Torres sent her a formal letter requesting her presence at the law office. When Stephanie walked in and saw me sitting there with Derek and Ms. Torres, her face went white. She immediately tried to leave, but Ms. Torres blocked the door. She said, "Sit down, Stephanie. We need to talk." Ms. Torres laid out the evidence. She showed Stephanie the journal entry, explained that we had grounds to file a motion to vacate my conviction, and that Stephanie could face charges for perjury and filing a false police report. Stephanie started crying. She said it was not her fault that our father had pressured her, that she was young and scared. She said Raymond had been furious after the divorce, that he hated our mother Patricia, and that he wanted to hurt her indirectly by hurting me. He told Stephanie that if she did not do something to teach me a lesson, he would cut her out of his will. I listened to her make excuses, and I felt nothing but cold anger. I said, "You took 10 years of my life. You destroyed my education, my career, my relationship. You made me a criminal. And for what money?" Stephanie kept crying, but I was done. Ms. Torres gave her an ultimatum: write a full confession, or we go to court and press charges. Stephanie wrote the confession. It took her 2 hours, and she cried the entire time. She admitted everything, that she had lied about the assault, that the bruises were from her boyfriend Kyle, that she had manipulated the evidence, that she had convinced her friend Jenna to lie. Ms. Torres filed a motion to vacate my conviction with the court. 3 months later, in December 2024, a judge reviewed the case and granted the motion. My record was cleared. I was no longer a convicted criminal. Stephanie was investigated for perjury, but because she cooperated and had a young child, she was only fined and given community service. She did not go to jail. Part of me was angry about that, but another part of me did not care anymore. I had what I needed: my name back. The first few months after my name was cleared were strange. I felt relief, but I also felt empty. 10 years of my life were gone. I would never get them back. I would never get back the time with Harper, the career I could have had, the person I could have been. I went through a period of intense anger followed by deep sadness. I realized I needed help, so I started seeing a therapist named Dr. Helen Chu. Dr. Chu helped me understand that what I was feeling was grief. I was grieving the life I lost, the opportunities that were stolen from me. She taught me that healing was not about forgetting or forgiving Stephanie, but about releasing the hold that anger had on me. She said, "You cannot change the past, but you can decide how it shapes your future." I started taking online classes to finish my engineering degree. I enrolled in a program designed for working adults, and over the next 2 years, I completed the coursework. It was not easy balancing work and school, but I was determined. In May 2026, I finally earned my degree. My mother, Patricia, came to the small graduation ceremony, and she cried. She hugged me and said, "I am so proud of you." Around that same time, I met someone. Her name was Lydia, and we met at a workshop on renewable energy technologies. She worked for a nonprofit that installed solar panels in low-income communities. We started talking during a coffee break, and I felt something I had not felt in years, a genuine connection. On our third date, I told her about my past. I explained everything, showed her the court documents clearing my name, and waited for her reaction. She was quiet for a moment, then she said, "That must have been hell, but it does not define who you are now." Lydia and I have been together for over a year now. She knows all my scars, all my broken pieces, and she does not judge me for them. I am learning to trust again, slowly. About a year after the conviction was vacated, I received a letter from Stephanie. It was handwritten, several pages long. She wrote that she was sorry, that she knew nothing could undo what she had done, but that she thought about it every day. She said she was in therapy, that she had left our father, Raymond, and cut off contact with him, and that she was trying to be a better person for her daughter, Emma. She ended the letter by saying, "I do not expect you to forgive me. I just wanted you to know that I am sorry." I read the letter twice, then I put it in a drawer. I did not respond. I realized that whether or not I forgave Stephanie was irrelevant. Forgiveness was not something she was owed, and it was not something I needed to give in order to move forward. What mattered was that I had freed myself from the weight of that lie. I had reclaimed my life. I learned several things from this experience. I learned that family is not always who you are born to, but who chooses to stand by you when everything falls apart. Derek, a stranger, had more integrity than my own father. I learned that the justice system is flawed. Innocent people do get convicted, and sometimes you have to fight like hell to clear your name. I learned that resilience is not about bouncing back quickly, but about continuing to move forward even when it feels impossible. If someone asked me today if I regret taking that plea deal 10 years ago, I would say yes. I regret it every day. But I also learned something crucial. Sometimes the truth takes its time to surface. And when it does, it is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is just a husband finding a diary in a garage. Sometimes justice is quiet, but it still counts. I am 33 now. I have a job I love working on renewable energy projects. I have Lydia who believes in me. I have my mother who never stopped loving me even when she did not know what to believe. And I am finally free. Not because the system gave me justice, but because I refused to let a lie define me forever. So if you are going through something that feels impossible right now, if you have been betrayed or falsely accused, remember this: the truth is patient, and so should you be. Keep fighting, keep moving forward. Your vindication might not come when you expect it, but it can come. If this story resonated with you, I want to hear from you. Have you ever been wrongly accused of something? Have you ever had to fight to clear your name? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you believe in the power of truth and justice, please hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this story with someone who might need to hear it. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it gives you strength, and I hope it reminds you that no matter how dark things get, there is always a path forward. Take care of yourselves and never stop believing in your own truth.